So Ashutosh, just to give you a context and what Prajeet said, in a formal way, it's a welcoming. So KCM is basically the nodal agency for the government of Kerala for entrepreneurship development and incubation activity in the state, undertaking planning, execution, and management of the technology business incubator and accelerator to promote technology-based ventures and by creating infrastructure and environment in Kerala. So that's and this particular session, the Meet the Leader is one of the platform where we bringing the industry leaders like you to interact with the startups here. So it's a platform where um, the leaders and the our incubator startup and the startup will have a kind of uh, the availability to kind of get an opportunity to interact with the leaders and learn from the horse's mouth. So it's a privilege to have you, Ashutosh. It's a privilege to kind of host you for the session. So, hello, folks. I hope I'm audible to us, the attendees. So, Ashutosh is the country manager for LinkedIn. Without further ado, I'll request Ashutosh to kind of hand over the session and give a detailed introduction to yourself and take on the session. Please, Ashutosh.
Cool. Thank you. First of all, I'm so delighted to be here with all of you today. It's a great opportunity for me to connect with all of you virtually. I hope in different times I will understand better what kind of challenges, what kind of things you are solving for, but we'll get there. Patience is the name of the game. So I'm absolutely delighted being here today. I'm Ashutosh Gupta. I work for LinkedIn. I'm the country manager for LinkedIn India. I've completed 7 years now with LinkedIn. So many different roles, many different roles I've played over the last few years. Even travel. I was in Singapore till last September when I came back to India and took over this role. So I think today, Prajeet was kind enough to reach out to me, and I'm happy to be here and share with you what I think few things which will help in such situation. So I'm gonna do maybe 15 minutes of slides, and I think then we will open the floor for questions. Right, like the idea here is to share what LinkedIn can help, how LinkedIn can help, what are the tools we have today, which can be helpful for all of you. So that is the context of the presentation, and then we will discuss more in the Q&A on what other things are top of your mind and any other ways I or LinkedIn can help each one of you. So let me share my screen and take you through some of the slides we have put together. Awesome. So I think first of all, I was also very mindful. I think we all have so much of COVID information going around at this stage. There's a little bit of information overload. So I think you will see in the deck, we have kind of kept it in focus what we know at LinkedIn, what we are seeing at LinkedIn, rather than giving you in general view. And I think we have a couple of stats, few tools which are very helpful. And then from there, we can see which direction the questions come. So with that, I think, let me see if the slides move. Okay. So first of all, the obvious, right? The world looks very different where it was. And I think the pandemic is unprecedented, right? Like we have read about it. We have probably seen a couple of movies which were futuristic at this stage. But I think how to deal with this situation is very unprecedented. So everybody is trying to figure out what are the right things to do. How can we, first of all, make sure that all of us are healthy and well-being, our families and friends and people around us stay healthy and well-being, and their well-being. But after we have taken care of that, next definite thing on our mind is how do we react as the business owners or the business community or as a company owners or company stakeholders, right? So I think everybody is trying to figure out what are the right things to do. So I think I'm sure all of these things are on your mind today as well. Like what can you as the founders and the business leaders do to support your teams in the time of crisis? And the most important question as well is what are the tools available there so that we can keep our business running, right? I think there was an immediate shock when the lockdown came, and like everybody was like, hold on, first let me take care of my personal stuff. But now I think assumption is that people on this call, they're in good place, healthy, they're taking care of their well-being. Now the question is, how do we run our business? Like, what kind of things we can do, right? So we'll take a stab at it and see what are some of the ideas we have at LinkedIn, and then definitely your feedback as well as your questions will give us a little bit of idea on what we should be focusing more on. So moving on to the next slide, this was an interesting kind of data point. So I thought, let me share that. We did a platform survey in March, and there were 43% of respondents were working remotely. The big point here is, and this number must have changed, must have increased over the last few weeks as more and more countries have got into that situation. The big thing for me from a business perspective is one, our employee, our workforce is now remote. So we have to make sure that they have the right tools to be productive and successful. And second thing, not some, all of your business stakeholders, decision makers are part of this 43% numbers. What's the best way to reach to these numbers when they're working remotely, right? How do we make that connect? How do we make sure that they know about your businesses, your startups, your ideas, your products? So those are the two things which are definitely top of my mind when I looked at this number, saying, "Wow, this is world has really changed around us." So second, I think we are seeing heavy communication between the connections on the social media, right? So LinkedIn is a professional platform, right? So a lot of traffic again flowing between different connections. People are sharing, first of all, their own status saying, I'm good, they're all doing okay here. And then second is they're sharing a lot more on their business, they're sharing a lot more on the product solutions, even collaborating through some of these efforts, right? So we have seen increase in reaction, comments, reshares, messaging volumes. I don't know how many of you use LinkedIn messaging. They have just shot through the roof, right? Because it's being heavily used by business community or professional community to communicate with each other and keep each other informed, right? So those are the two kind of key data points as I was looking through all, which will be relevant for this set of people today on the call. So 43% people are remote, 55% increase in communication, and this will lead to the next part, which is where I think, what does it mean to us? This great data points. Everybody's showing data points. Like, what does this mean for us, right? What are the things LinkedIn can help so that remote working can be more productive and successful? How can we take care of our business? How can we take care of our employees, right? So I'm going to share three kind of ideas, three kind of things we have which will be relevant for you. First is manage your team, enhance external visibility, and drive business continuity. Uh, at LinkedIn, always our number one priority is talent, right? Making sure our teams are successful and productive, they are taken care of. That's where we start. And I'm sure all of you have the same thing on your mind. So managing your team, how do we keep them productive? Uh, Learning is not a point in time, it's a continuous learning. You'll always need to keep learning so that you can keep enhancing your skills. So, how do you keep doing that even during these times, as well as invest in your talent? I was listening to a webinar from Harvard, and I think they drew a parallel of current crisis with the Chilean mining crisis. I don't know how many of you are aware. There was this big mining crisis where hundreds of miners were stuck in a mine in Chile. So I think they use that as an example of how to react in such situations, though it's not there's no comparison to pandemic in that situation. But some of these crises give us important lessons which we can learn from it. And one of the most important lessons is teams or teaming together is gonna be super important, right? You can't beat this situation alone. So you have to keep your teams together. You have to take care of those teams. You have to collaborate. So I think that's something which we'll cover in depth. Second is you all have the problem, as I think everybody's worked virtual now. So how do we get out there and increase our visibility, sustain the visibility as well as increase the visibility? Because I don't want to sound dire, but this will last a little longer, right? There's not few weeks. May 1st will not make humongous change, right? I hope it does, but like, things will not return to the normal. There's a new normal, and the new normal is virtual, right? So how can we use this new normal to make sure that our brand is visible? What's there from a leadership perspective? How can we communicate with our stakeholders, with our employees? And last, which is the core of, uh, I'm sure everybody's minds today, is how do we drive business continuity, right? We were running with the momentum. We were trying to do some stuff. Now suddenly there was this pause. So how do we get back? How do we continue doing what we are doing? And I think customers have to be in center of everything. So we'll talk through the customer centricity and remote selling, right? Like that's going to be the new thing. How do we figure out the sellers we have? How do we make sure that they are connecting to the right decision makers? How do we engage with those decision makers? Is something which we're going to think about. So managing your team talent, increasing your visibility, and driving business continuity. And I think before even the pandemic strike, we had products and solutions which talk to it. I think we always have believed that world will get more digital, world will get use some bit of virtual, but of course the pandemic has completely changed the normal. So we have LinkedIn Learning, we have Pages live events, which is super valuable. I think I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then of course a tool which we use for my sales perspective, which is called Sales Navigator. So let's get into it, right? So first we'll start with managing your team. So first of all, encouraging employees to take a course on LinkedIn Learning. I'll show you some stats in a minute. By the way, our learning uh, request or our learning platform, the usage is shot through the roof because everybody is virtual and everybody is like, I need to still keep learning. I still need my team to keep learning. So I think we have like 15,000 plus courses. We have both hard skills and soft skills. You can learn at your own time. And once you have done your learning, you can even reflect it back on your profile, right? So it's a really, really important tool at this stage. And I think this for LinkedIn came through an acquisition we did many years of a company called lynda.com. And now we have made it our own. And it's called LinkedIn Learning. And we have enhanced the tool many, many times. So I think this is something which definitely I would highly recommend that you guys use so that you can keep your employees engaged and they can still keep learning in this space. I think look at some of the numbers, what's happening, right? Like this is very real data, very current data as well. All of the virtual collaboration solutions, virtual teams, telecommuting, they have all shot through the roof. Look at the numbers, 5,000 plus percent, right? There's so much inherent demand, and people are already investing so that they get the skills so that they are more successful and productive when they are remote, right? So it's a trend we are seeing where numbers are showing the same thing, which we know would be very, very valuable for the community. We have made several courses free on LinkedIn. This is our way to give back, and I think some of these courses are uh, fundamentally saying, okay, how can we empower and enable the community out there so that they can use these courses and they can start their learning journey. So, for example, I'll pick few of them. You can read them on your screen. But like selling with authenticity, I think it's a brilliant course. I was talking to some other community last week, and being authentic in such situations is the most important thing, right? So how do you sell with authenticity, right? So definitely a great course. Exec presence on video conference calls. Like how do you think about that? That's a good one. I think we all are seeing so much stress, anxiety about things around us. How do you manage stress for positive change? Right. So there's some really cool courses here, which we have made free. And these are some examples. And we are continuously looking at our roster and seeing which one other courses we can make free for the community. I'm going slightly fast so that we can answer questions and definitely keep your questions ready as you go through the slides and I'll try and answer as many as possible. Second is, as I was saying, like world has gone virtual. So how do we still be connected and enhance our visibility during such time? So we figured out there are a few tools we have which are going to be very, very helpful for all of you. So first of all, from a leadership. This is a very important slide, right? All of you as leaders have a role, right, to be out there and lead from the front, right? I think a couple of examples on this slide are from a larger company, but doesn't matter, right? You can be any size company, but the platform is for everybody, so you can still use it. So I think my favorite example is the Marriott example, where the SEO came out with this video, which has been hugely liked. It was a turning moment for Marriott. It was a sentiment changer for Marriott as a brand, right? He came out as a real compassionate leader and really talked well about what Marriott is doing in such times, right? So small things can enhance your brand. It can help your teams as well. So you can either use this to communicate externally or even with your teams. So please definitely, as leaders of your business, leaders of your company, think about what voices you want to lend to the platform and how you want to reflect your brand in such situation. Now coming to a little more tools, right? What tools are there? There are three tools which we have. I think pages has been there. LinkedIn pages have been there from many times, many years now. LinkedIn Live, again, it has been around for some time. Then Events, which is currently in beta phase, is a very new product which we have built, by the way, which was built by our teams here in India. So I think a combination of this is a fantastic way for you guys to be out there and even use the virtual environment we are in to communicate strongly with your stakeholders. So Pages is your virtual identity. Let me go to next slide. So Pages is your identity on LinkedIn, right? I'm sure all of you have created LinkedIn pages for your companies or startups or businesses you're running. If you have not, I would highly recommend. Pages is a way to make sure that there's a brand out there and this brand is reflected through this LinkedIn page. There's multi formats you can use to communicate the pages, PPTs, PDF docs. I think a lot of people, a lot of your clients, prospects, future employees will come back to your page to see who this company is, what are they talking about, how many people are following those pages, right? So they will definitely check you out. Like they check out your individual LinkedIn profiles, they will definitely check out your LinkedIn pages as well. And as well as a great tool, great single point for engaging with your own employees, right? So LinkedIn pages, highly recommended. My assumption is all of you have a LinkedIn page, but if somebody doesn't, I will be happy, my teams will be happy to walk you through the journey of establishing a LinkedIn page. Not everything is paid. This is a free tool. Even when you promote, I think organic content, you can definitely send organic content through the pages, right? So a lot of brands use organic content to be out there. And then once you have established some momentum, you can use some dollars to do even sponsored stuff. So more to come. I'm so familiar with this tool and I love this tool, so I can speak for hours. But that's a quick one on LinkedIn pages. LinkedIn Live, again, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about LinkedIn Live. It's a tool which is used to reach a broad base of customers and followers and prospects, right? So I think at this stage, to host an event is not really a possibility. I don't know for how long. Even if you want to host an event for your prospects, it's going to be difficult because the confidence on their side to come to a large gathering it's not here today. So LinkedIn Live is a way to broadcast your event, your product spotlight innovations, right? And I think fireside chats with the leaders, and that's a great way to be out there, connecting and sharing more with the leaders, right? I think it's right now LinkedIn Live is a free tool. You will have to bear the cost on your end of broadcast and other things. But I think we are approving people based on their needs. So definitely there's a way to get in the queue and get this approval requested and use LinkedIn Live for your future events. Now I use the word events, but events is one which is going to take the most hit. Before I go to LinkedIn events, we all used to large events, go and showcase our products, showcase a booth, best way to connect with people. But that is going to take a little bit of hit for next, I don't know how long. I don't know when will we get normalcy to get 1,000 people events together, right? It's anybody's guess at this stage. So LinkedIn events was a way for us to organize some of those events on LinkedIn, right? If you think about event, my favorite here is pre-event and post, right? Like how you have to manage each of the spaces, and these were all offline. A lot of effort to get the invite list, invite people, get them to an event, engage with them in the event, and post event, you want to still follow up with them. All of that can be achieved on LinkedIn events. It's our newest product. I think we are trying very hard to get it out of the beta stage so that you can all use it. It's already available for each one of you. So definitely think about it. Now, imagine a world where you're using pages, LinkedIn Live and events, right? Think about what all things you want to do and pretty much like at least from an external visibility, connecting with stakeholders, showcasing your products, lot can be solved through these three tools. Uh, Quick check on time. Okay, I'm slightly slow, but I'll move on. And lastly is business continuity, right? I think we have talked about how you're going to manage your team. You're going to talk about how you're going to engage with some of the stakeholders and external world, but how to drive business forward. And one of the most important things is clients, right? We have to make sure that we are taking our clients in the middle of all the situation. What are their needs? What are they talking about? What are they thinking about? It's very, very important. I think I would just give a small thing on compassionate selling here, right? Make sure that, we are putting the compassion hat on when we are talking to some of our clients, right? This is not time for a hard pitch. So first of all, we need to make sure that our clients are in a good place. What are they thinking? How are their businesses are doing? What are the problem statements they have? And solve for some of that before we bring our product into the limelight or in front of them. So customer centricity is the important thing. It's very easy in a virtual world. First meeting, I am selling XYZ. Are you interested? You will lose that client forever or prospect for that ever. So think about how you want to approach your prospects as well as clients in this stage. Remote selling is where I want to show you another tool, which again, my assumption is a lot of you are aware, but it's a very, very powerful tool. We use our LinkedIn member data and use that data to drive sales teams, give them insights, which can be very, very helpful. And so this is a sales navigator tool, which helps you connect to your third connection. You can send in mails to them. You can even mark certain accounts, companies as prospects, and the tool sends you back what those prospects are sharing, what those companies are sharing. If those companies are mentioned in media, that tool even grabs that and share it back with you. So it's a fantastic tool for sales teams to be engaged and connected what's happening in their client's world. And you can send email messages to tell them about your products and solutions or get appointments from each one of them. You can send smart presentation, smart link presentation, where you can even track which part of the presentation they have been, how much time they have spent, right? So again, it's an amazing tool for sellers. I think we use it, of course, heavily within our LinkedIn world. There are hundreds of clients which are using it, but in this current environment, I felt like this is definitely going to add a lot more value for people so that they can reach out. I'm sure as startups, owners of startups, a lot of your business is going to be outside India, right? Like you can't travel to those countries. How do you engage with those customers? You can definitely use Navigator to get there. So, and there are some additional resources for leaders here. I think we'll try and send this deck to each one of you so that you can use some of this, read later on and get through some of these resources. I just want to summarize very quickly and then I'll hand it over so that we can look at some of the questions which are coming. So first of all, managing your team. It's very, very important to stay close with your team, manage them compassionately, think about their learning needs, invest in them. And they are also going through hard times along with all of us. So it's very, very important that we take care of them. Second is, of course, enhancing our external visibility. I think not being opportunistic, but just continue doing what you're doing with your companies and sharing it with the external world, right? So exec leadership we talked about, I'll definitely invite all of you to use the platform to get your messages out there, share your voices, share your thinking, what's happening with each one of you and with your company or with your this kind of things you're designing in this new world so that it can be used by others to be productive and successful. And lastly, we talked about how we can still continue to be effective sellers in the business continuity part. I talked about customer centricity. I talked about using Sales Navigator to still stay connected and engaged with your decision makers. So those are the three areas I thought will be relevant, and I want to make sure that each one of you get into it. If you felt this was too fast, you can answer some questions. I'm even committed. If you need deep dive on any one of them, happy to take another session. Just focus on. Let's say you say I want Navigator, I want a session on Navigator. Happy to arrange that as well. So with that, I'll take a small drink of water and then let's scan through some of the questions.
Yeah, great, Ashutosh. It was crisp and to the point presentation, and it was pretty insightful too. So there are a few questions in the Q&A tab. Are you able to kind of view them?
Yeah.
So if you could answer those questions. Meanwhile, I request all the participants to raise your hand if you want to ask the question directly. There are few people who already raised the hand. We will be unmuting you so that you can ask. We'll call your name so that then you'll be able to ask the question directly. So please raise your hand for that. Ashutosh, please.
Yeah. So, sorry. First question: what happened to job market after this crisis? Of course, I think we are watching this very closely, right? I think LinkedIn is heavily used for jobs, both from demand and supply perspective. So I think it's very early to tell you what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of distress out there. So I think our current focus is to start understanding the talent marketplaces. And I think the first thing which we realized, very first thing, is that some of the frontline industries, frontline people who are handling the crisis, right? For example, hospitals, relief workers, so they need more help at this stage. So we have made some of those job postings free for those, and then we will think about what other areas we need to focus on. So coming specifically to your question, what will happen to job market? We'll go through some tough times, right? For sure, right? The demand and supply mismatch will definitely rise, but I think it's too early to paint a picture. Nobody has a crystal ball, but I would definitely recommend that be ready for a little bit of impact for sure, right? Which all of you must be seeing, right? So I think we definitely collect a lot of data on jobs across industries, across different countries as well. So in India as well, we have a very heavy insights focus on what's happening in the market. But I won't take a shot at it and try and provide a crystal ball answer on this. So my answer is we are watching it, we are trying to understand the trends, and then we'll figure out what's the right way to respond to some of the needs which are coming. Okay, how can LinkedIn help small and emerging software business serving rural customers? I think let's divide this question into two parts, right? Domestic and international. I think domestic, local India, I think we have a little bit of challenge right now. I think our network reaches some part of the rural areas, but not all parts of the rural area in India. We are definitely committed to building that over the next few years. But at this stage, I would say definitely try and reach out to people if you can find them. But I think there's definitely a little bit of limited coverage of rural areas in those places. Outside India, there's definitely like in especially some of the developed economies, we have been able to make more strides in the rural areas, and you will find people who you can connect, and then definitely sell your solutions and services to them, right? So I think some things which we have to still solve for with LinkedIn India, which we are working on, and there's some parts in the developed economies probably which have been solved for.
Ashutosh, I'll intervene you for a second.
Mhm.
Janaki, we have unmuted Janaki, so she can ask directly. Janaki, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Hey, Janji.
Yeah, hi. Sir, I have been using LinkedIn on a consistent basis for the last 8 months. However, I wanted to know the difference between what is a follower and connection. So, when we post a feed, content feed, who views it? Would it be the connection or would it be the follower?
So both will get it. The difference between a follower and a connection is a follower is a little bit of a one-way street, right? So let me explain. So follower will see everything which you are saying and they can respond to that post, but they cannot communicate directly to you. A connection can, right? So a connection is connected one-on-one with between you and me. So let's say you are connected to me, you and I can chat. We can exchange messages. Whereas others who are just followers, they just read what you share with them. There's no way for them to come back and talk to you. I think it's a good way to use. Uh, I use a little bit of discretion on who is I'm connected to. I don't connect to everybody, but then followers still can see what I'm sharing and get benefit out of it, right? So that's the difference, right?
Okay.
If you are using a little bit of lens to say I can't connect with everybody, which you can't, right? So LinkedIn definitely doesn't promote saying all everybody has to be connected with everybody, right? Have thousands of connections. You can't manage that, right? That's where
Mm-hmm.
this follower thing can help you by having followers rather than having all of them as connections.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Thanks.
Next is Mr. Shay. Hello. We
Yeah.
have unmuted, we had unmuted one person, but he's not available now. So you can just read the Q&A. I will unmute in between and let you know.
Yeah, you can always interrupt me. Okay, I'm taking a question from Lakshman SP. Even for businesses, there's going to be a hoarding mentality rather than hiring outsourcing business. How do small business deal with a change in mentality due to the pandemic? Uh, when you say hoarding mentality, I'm interpreting in my own terms. But I think you have to be patient, right? I think when you get into the situation, the tendency is yes, and you don't want to, probably give a lot more to other people. So that's where the hoarding comes. But I think if you're patient, things will change. They cannot stay the same way, right? So patience is key here. How do small business deal with change in mentality? I think the value of the solution you're providing will be very important, right? If the value is high, it's not gonna change anything, right? Pandemic or no pandemic, right? So the value might change during pandemic, like what value people are looking for versus after pandemic. But focus on value. That's my advice to you. I think I'm hearing a lot of noise. Are we ready for a live question?
We have unmuted Mr. Anil. Anil Balan, please ask the QP. Anil, are you there?
Yeah, Anil Joseph.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, sir. My question is that will the quantum of sales engagement post COVID scenario go up through digital medium? If so, what should be the preparatory effort that needs to be done by the organizations?
Okay. Thanks, Alan, for the question. So you are saying, will the sales quantum shift
Sales
virtually?
engagement quantum today, which should be face to face, might there is a scope for shifting to a digital engagement.
Absolutely. I think I definitely believe that's my personal perspective that this crisis will take time to get to a good point. We will have enough business confidence, enough personal confidence to meet people in person, right? So the sales fundamentally will shift. Sales, the way of selling will change a lot, right? So I was my selling methods like few years back was very, very like I need to get in a room, let's have a cup of tea and coffee. And we have to change that, right? Because I don't think so this will stabilize to a point where people will meet freely and they will not have their questions in their mind or they will have the confidence to meet in person. So I think this is gonna last. In my sense, if there's a vaccine out there, whenever it comes, that's gonna change a lot of things for us. but nobody knows when that is coming, right? So definitely the quantum will move virtual. Now, how do you prepare for it, right? So some of the things which I shared earlier, right? Have the right tools. You have a good video conferencing tool available for your sales team. Use tools like Navigator so that they can prospect and connect very well. I think that you have to be mindful when you connect virtually, right? You can't just, like I was saying earlier, you can't just pitch in the right up front. So you have to nurture. The nurture bit won't go away, right? And the last thing to remember, which I was talking earlier as well, last few weeks to somebody else, people buy from people. That won't change, right? If you're virtual or real, doesn't matter. The people will buy from each other. So the human connection is very important. It might take a little extra effort on virtual to make establish that connection. So I think how can you prepare? Get the right tools, get the right technology for your sales team, so that they're productive and successful. That's how you can prepare for it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Next is Resnia. Resnia, are you there?
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself and ask the question.
Yeah. Hi, sir. I'm Rasnia. Good evening. Sir, I'm a LinkedIn premium user for last 2 years. And I always feel that it's an amazing platform which we can get connected and getting more leads. I'm a salesperson also. So from my viewpoint, I'm connecting n number of peoples daily because I'm using a sales navigator. So there are lots of but our company we have a targeted customers to.
Did I lose you?
Resnia, you are muted. Please unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah. I've already unmuted right now.
Please.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. So can you repeat the question again? I got that you connect with a lot of people.
Oh, okay. Sure, sir, sure. Sir, my question is that I'm using the Sales Navigator for last 2+ years, but I feel that we have a targeted customers to connect it with. So the problem is that when we are connecting in the Sales Navigator, there is some limitations occurring when we are connecting a number of customers. So I just want to know why is like that, sir, because there is any other way we can able to connect it with the n number of people without any limitations?
So you're using Navigator through your premium subscription, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's not first of all.
Okay.
I think the way you shared targeted companies, that's a great idea, right? Like that's the right way to use the tool as well. Identify the list of companies and put them as prospects in your sales navigator, and then try and connect with them. The reason in premium we limit the number of emails or the limit of connections because we don't want to bombard people, right? So
Okay.
there is a limit which we have put. Even when you use Sales Navigator, it's not unlimited. There are tiers, right? So we want to definitely make sure the member experience is right? We don't want suddenly everybody to get bombarded by the request. So
Yes.
there is a little bit of filter there so that people do the right things. Also, I think my advice to you is if you want more, definitely go to the full Sales Navigator solution. Don't go through premium. But other thing is be mindful of the number of connections you're making, right? You have to find a meaningful connect, right? So
Yes.
so take your time. I know sometimes prospecting is like I have this great tool. Let me get everything done today. You have to take your time to think through what will help me connect with this person, right? So be a little mindful. And your experience on premium is correct. We don't let you do unlimited stuff. We throttle some of that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next is Samjad. Samjad, are you there?
Yes, Dhanaj. I'm here.
Please introduce yourself and kind of ask the question.
Hey, hi, sir. Very good talk, and loved it. And I would like to take your offer for giving more insights on the Sales Navigator thing.
Sure.
My question to you is, see, there are different thoughts on the reasonable size of a network than you need to build under your LinkedIn profile. Some says it's 500, some says it's 1,000. I'm from a B2B business sector, and I would like to know, based on your internal learnings and stats, what is the ideal reasonable size of a network whereby your promotions or your content that you upload to LinkedIn works for you organically to build your business. So I believe most people are on non-paid plan in LinkedIn. So how does it work organically, and what is a reasonable network size?
Okay. There are a couple of questions inside the question you asked. But like, first of all, request to all users, when you connect with me in the person, please don't use sir. I'm very uncomfortable with that. I'm Ashutosh, so call me by my first name, right? That's a request to each one of you. So first of all, I think if you are using your own personal member account of your profile to promote, uh, I would say that's not the right way. That's not my recommendation. You can do it, but I think the best way is to use LinkedIn pages, right?
Okay.
So that's what I was saying. Don't use your own profile to communicate. In fact, just today morning, and I won't name the person, not connected to all of you, an organization reached out whose personal profile was blocked because they were using this for exact reason and they were sending thousands of messages, right? Our algorithm catches that kind of stuff and they feel like you are bombarding with spamming and it'll put your block on your profile, right? So that's slightly risky. So don't use your profile. Build a page and from there you can have thousands of followers. That way you can nurture those followers, communicate with those followers and share the promotions which you are trying to share. So my advice to you, think about LinkedIn page, use your LinkedIn page, don't use your personal profile for that.
Okay.
Make sense?
Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Ashutosh.
Next is Vineet. Vineet Sharma. Please go ahead.
Hi, Vineet.
Yeah, hi. I'm Vinitya. So I wanted to know basically do you think are the prospects of these Indian technology firms going to be, after this COVID-19, because a lot of these firms, especially which are in offshoring and outsourcing, basically are going to feel certain kind of headwinds, because I mean the lot of it, basically the firms are going to be a lot more, I mean there will be a lot more friction, as far as I mean, business prospects are concerned, So don't you feel that there will be a lot more of big challenges, as far as the IT sector is concerned, because it was already facing a lot of problem, because of this technology and all, because of AI and all. And after this, there will be a lot more, I mean, issues as far as, with the, I mean, the migration visa and technology and as such, so don't you feel that the prospects are going to be somewhat, I mean, hindered, because of it?
Yeah, no, great question. I think very simply put, I think I don't like to put a crystal ball answers in front of you, but here's my perspective on this, and this is my personal perspective, right? I
Yeah.
think first of all, there will be a short-term impact,
Okay.
right? You have to, there will be an impact and you have to brace for it, right? The borders are closed, nobody is traveling. A lot of our offshoring work and IT companies were heavily dependent on travel, right? I used to work in that business 10 years back, right? I was part of Infosys Cognizant, right? They will go through a phase. I'm not talking specific companies, but in just IT offshoring, that will definitely take a little bit of hit. Now, somebody can turn back how long? I have no idea, right? What is the short term? Is it few weeks, few months, few quarters, 1 year? There's nobody has that crystal ball, right? So,
Okay.
but fundamentally, I think some of the value proposition why people were offshore still is very, very, very strong, right? Number one reason why India was a place for offshoring is talent, right? We have a humongous talent, and we have a people who are heavily skilled, and so many engineers, and they're very, very well educated and widely available. That won't change. In fact, when we looked at some of the from a LinkedIn perspective, next 10 years, I don't remember exact numbers, but millions of people are gonna join our workforce from colleges, engineering colleges, right? So we have a very young workforce, which many countries don't have. That competitive advantage will stay, right?
Okay.
Costs around it as well. So some of this value proposition will stay. Short-term impact, yes. Long-term, my assumption, my optimism says that there will be no difference, right? There will be few things which will change, but overall our competitiveness in that space will still remain.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's take some questions from the Q&A tab again, because there are a lot of Qs in that session, and then we'll come back to that question again after some time. Is that fine?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'm seeing is a lot of you requesting session on Sales Navigator.
Oh,
So acknowledged. I'll work with Sajid to see how we can schedule that in the next few weeks, right? So we'll get somebody from Sales Navigator team to come and talk to you guys, right? So
that'll
that
be
will help. Yeah, that will be fantastic. That's my kind of small commitment to you guys. So keep that definitely feedback coming. Let me pick a couple of questions because there's so many of them. I think in
yeah.
the limited time we can't pick all of them. There was somebody asking questions about Kerala specific data for LinkedIn users. How many companies on LinkedIn user base? I think so. Kerala specific data. I think we don't do state level data, but in the back end we will have data for sure. I just don't understand the use case you're trying to solve for. So if you can share what is the reason for that, why do you need Kerala specific data? We'll definitely think about how to get that data to you. And picking up another question, could you please give us some more insights on Sales Navigator? How do we get started using it? Is there any subscription? Hold that question. When the Sales Navigator team comes and talks to you, definitely something I'll ask them to talk about. What other questions? I'm trying to take some of the questions which are. What are some best practices you suggest on using LinkedIn groups? Uh, LinkedIn groups definitely is we have seen many new groups being created after COVID, which are discussing COVID impact, which are discussing how industries will change once the COVID situation they are facing. So I think I would say definitely participate some of those groups. You can find them groups if you search for them on LinkedIn. I would definitely say groups take a little effort to keep them people engaged and keep them running. You have to send content. You have to keep the people engaged. So be reasonably sure that you have the time and level of investment and energy to create a group. But groups is a good way to be part of a community. So there are many communities available on LinkedIn. If you want to go there and use them, absolutely, I would say that's the right way to think about it. Uh, okay. I'm just trying to see more questions. Uh, I like this one from Ashwin. You said on stress on talent and learning. How do you think leaders can embed the culture of continuous learning into their organization? Learning is quite ad hoc and top driven today. Do you see that becoming integral part of KRA to the workforce? It will. I think it will. There were two type of people, broadly bucketing them into these two buckets. One were continuous learners by themselves. They had the inner drive to learn more and more, and they would definitely figure out ways to keep learning. And there were some people with inertia. My assumption is that as this crisis unfolds, there will be more people who will jump from the second bucket to first bucket because self-driven. Reskilling, acquiring the right skills is going to be super important for all of us. I'm saying everybody, including myself, to be valuable and sustainable career in such times, right? So learning will become important. There will be more self-realizations, and as leaders, we have to keep talking to our teams and employees the reason for it. We at LinkedIn invest significant time as leadership, as teams, bucketing times into learning moments for everybody, right? So even during this phase, all of us are spending time to learn something new, some skills, refreshing some of those skills, right? So I think you will see the change in people's perspective. It doesn't necessarily need to be a top-down thing, but again, as a leader, we should keep reminding people the value and importance of it, right? Even before COVID, just to give you a little more context, India had a big gap on skill side, right? You have heard the government talk about it. You have heard many industry leaders talk about on reskilling, imparting the right set of skills to the people. So it's a need of the hour, but COVID situation will further propel us into a direction where we need to have the right skills. We need to keep our skills refreshed. Otherwise, we will become untenable, unviable in the talent marketplace. So definitely, it's very important. Learning will continue to be important as we go forward on this. I think a lot of Sales Navigator questions. I think this one is interesting. I don't know whether I will have a perspective, but I want to acknowledge that question. How tourism industry in Kerala be benefiting using the LinkedIn platform? Can we have some tips on it? Tourism. First of all, I've been 3 times to Kerala. One of my favorite destinations. I love it. My boys who are 7 years old have never been to Kerala, and that was the plan. I want to get them to backwaters, but we'll have to wait a little bit. I think tourism was heavily promoted on LinkedIn as well. In fact, Ministry of Tourism used to run a campaign, Incredible India. I'm sure all of you have seen that. So, but this industry is the frontline industry, which is going to take the maximum hit. And the issue is or the confidence, right? Not the business the personal confidence, right? Me to get in a plane and go anywhere will take some time before we get to a point where people feel comfortable in traveling and you be back on the tourism bus. So I think, if there was no COVID situation, LinkedIn is a great platform to connect. I think, especially when you want to invite people from other countries, even domestically, but even other countries, a great platform to promote because I think our members, if I remember, they actually are okay to get such content on the platform, right? So if you show them a tourism video or a post, they're perfectly fine. They want to learn about the new places. They want to learn from people's experiences, right? So it was a great place from a tourism impact. Definitely will have to be a little more patient before the confidence comes for people to start traveling again, right? I think I'm done. Let me go to the bottom again. I think a lot of repetitive questions. So sales, definitely I've answered some of that. So are there any other live questions or?
I think that there are a few, many who are interested. Because of the paucity of time, let's take 3 more questions and then wrap up. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll stop sharing now. I don't think we need
Ajay and Ashwin, both of them we have unmuted. Ajay, you can go ahead first and then Ashwin.
Sure.
Hey, Ajay.
Hey, thanks, Ashutosh. So I have this straightforward question. That is, what are some of you have mentioned about Sales Navigator and things around it. So there is LinkedIn groups. So what are the best practices you suggest on using the groups? And, I have another question that is, why isn't it possible to download, the details of the connections we have? I mean, download the contact information. So I have seen that there are third-party applications which help us to do it, but why not LinkedIn directly help us to download the contact information?
The second question is, I think my perspective is it's a personally identifiable information which we have a lot of privacy stuff, laws around it which we don't allow. I think there are third-party applications. I'm also get a lot of people sharing or they're reaching out to me and when I ask them how do you get my number or my email, I think they quote me some of those applications. So I think at LinkedIn, we are very, very careful about some of those rules and regulations. And I think it's definitely we take into consideration when you want to download personally identifiable information, right? So that's one. Even in Navigator, I think some of those rules apply, and we make sure that only once you have made the connection that you're able to really, really connect and talk to that person, right? On first question on groups, it's a very interesting question. I think there has been a lot of discussion over the years. As I said, I joined LinkedIn 7 years back. It was a tool which was heavily used then, and it's heavily used as well. One of the things I would say about the group is if you've joined a group and if you want some meaningful conversation and attention to you, then you have to be sharing and be, commenting, adding value to that group. A lot of people are silent observers, and then people won't respond anything to you, right? So that's number one, add value to the group. There was an example many, many years back, and I don't remember the firm. It was a financial advisor in United States somewhere who was hanging around in the group, listening to the conversation, adding value when he or she can. And then one day he closed a small business loan worth few million. I don't remember the number, of course, it's many years, just because people say, okay, you are authentic, you are adding value, and they pulled him outside of the group to close the transaction, right? So it's about establishing that human connection again, right? Like a lot of people in the group feel like nobody sees me, so I can be whoever, or I don't add value and I can be silent observer, but that's not the right thing. You have to add value, right? And that's the value. Then the value will come back to you through the group members. That's my advice to you, and definitely keep adding value.
Sure. Thank you.
Ashwin, can you please go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Dhananj. Hi, Ashutosh. Thank you for answering my first question around talent and learning. I just had a follow-up question to that, and this is probably a little, it's deviated from the topic, but I just want to pick your brains. You see, there's a lot of developments happening in the edtech space. It's picking up drastically, and a lot of new players are entering, and a lot of new, courses targeted around business functions like finance or marketing. So do you see this as a threat to university education? Do you see this as something which would replace university education, or is there a long way to sort of that to happen?
Oh, so just let me, I think miss some part of it. So edutech, you said edutech, I heard adtech, right? You said edutech, right?
Yeah, edutech, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, it's a little difficult. I don't have the crystal ball, but definitely some of this is what it's doing actually, Ashwin, is democratizing the educational learning bit, right? I don't have to be physically somewhere else or have to have certain things before I get that educational learning, right? So I think definitely some of the edutech is gonna change some of that in the coming days and weeks and months and years, right? So I think traditional learning is gonna at some different levels will get impacted a lot by it, right? For example, even today, because there's COVID times, my boys used to go to school, but they're doing virtual learning, right? A lot of people are now who were doing virtual courses or even attending courses, even professional courses. That trend will get much more deeper and significant even post-COVID, right? I, in fact, read a headline somewhere, and I think I couldn't figure out whether it's verified or not information. Some universities are saying that we won't get students back in colleges or hospitals or universities back until 2021.
Right.
So that will have an impact on the traditional learning for sure. Whether that impact sustains, if we hit a vaccine and everything goes back to normal and people saying, let's go back to the old ways, that's something which I don't have the crystal ball. But to your question, right, definitely there will be an impact, and especially education, I see a lot of things will change in future.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. I think, wow, that was great. Thank you everybody for such an engaging, interactive session. I think my one key takeaway for me, there were three key takeaways for you, which hopefully you remember. But my one key takeaway is definitely there was a lot of interest on Sales Navigator. So I'll definitely talk to my team and organize a session for another Zoom call like this we are doing today, where you can get into deep dive and just ask the right questions on Sales Navigator. I would definitely encourage for each one of you to use that tool because it's definitely going to help you in current virtual world. So thank you so much. I think Prajeet, and I think I want to thank you for reaching out and connecting me with this great community. I think you guys are doing good work. I think my request and my advice is be patient, let the situation evolve, think through your most important needs. I think one thing we follow at LinkedIn, which I definitely want to give it back to you, each one of you, figure out the principles and the purpose of your business, right? Principles by which you're going to lead through the teams and the business, and what is the purpose you're trying to solve through the business. That's going to be super important. And the number one priority, always talent. Keep thinking about your people and keep nurturing them because they're going to help. They're going to be your assets once we come out of this situation or even during the COVID times, right? So I enjoyed the interaction a lot. I hope you guys as well. I hope you found value in the conversation today. Thank you for your time, and stay safe and healthy, everybody, and good luck. Take care.
Thank you, Ashutosh. The privilege is ours. It was a really insightful and engaging session, and the kind of questions that came up actually shows that. And we would love to host you in a physical session, host you in Kerala in one of the events coming up, and we'll have a physical one-on-one interaction once this issues and all happen. Would be love to kind of come over if possible. So
Absolutely. I'll get my family, as I said. I want to get them to Kerala. So
great,
whenever
great.
that time comes, we'll make a long trip out of it.
Sure. Prajit might have told you about the Huddle event. So once that thing, Huddle is one of our flagship event which we host every year. So if possible, if Huddle is happening, we'll definitely keep you in loop and let you know. Okay.
Okay.
And also, sure. And also, I'd love to thank you to Pranav, Piyush Pranav. I think he was here to kind of answering a lot of questions in between. It's again, he's also from LinkedIn. Thank you for joining, and thanks for your time. And
Yeah,
thank you.
Piyush. Yeah, thank you, Piyush, as well. Piyush has worked with me. So definitely he was in touch with you and he helped me through some of this content. So thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good rest of your evening and be safe and healthy. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you.